90 days a little fearful. If this what you want, you best go peaceful. And she said, baby, I know you legit. Baby, I know you legit. She said, feel like you don't need exist. I said, U.P.K made me like this. Bought a big, I bought the least spit. I start all my crowns, swinging necklace. And what the men above have taught me. Hey, you say I pray too hard, no coffee. I had to change my life like this. I'm taking life for what it is. You need some lenses. I'm riding by the damn scriptures. Hey, I told you not to do no sin no more. I guess they acting like they hear me. 90 days a little fearful. That's what you want, you best go peaceful. And she said, baby, I know you legit. Baby, I know you legit. She said, feel like you don't need exist. I said, U.P.K made me like this. I've been up, 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 I've been up. With the fuss, show me love, I need love. Don't wanna leave me. I'm mixing up my damn problems. I'm mixing out all of that violence. If you with me, we on that fly shit. To all these worldly bastards round us, I say, I told you not to do no sin no more. I guess they acting like they hear me. 90 days a little fearful. If that's what you want, you best go peaceful. And she said, baby, I know you legit. Baby, I know you legit. She said, feel like you don't need exist. I said, U.P.K made me like this. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. So back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go, never let it free. Shit I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. No coward, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. So back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go, never let it free. Shit I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. Yeah, you nigga know I'm about to bring the heat, right? About to bring the heat. Shit I used to live the street life. Now I still keep the heat tight. Now nigga all gold like a green light. They say 144, nigga, you can get it. They ain't gotta tell me twice, gotta tell me. Tryna stack a couple grand, get on some land, and then put us on the field in the field with the wall. You know a nigga glorious, but we still keep the G on. Keep them tools Home Depot. Might hit her with the Rico. Hey, hit the nigga with the Rico. Hey, said they fuck with the rap game. What you looking at me for? So I know they can't stand me. That's why I keep a Glock handy. Gotta keep it weird. Might sip a little brandy. While I'm chilling with the family. Tell them a real nigga land. Dressing all black like a bandit. Bitch, I ain't come to play. No, I ain't playing. Bitch, I came to do that. No coward, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. So back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip. Might ship a little brand gang. They say 144, nigga, you can get it. They ain't gotta tell me twice, gotta tell me. Tryna stack a couple grand, get on some land, and then put us on the field in the field with the Warriors. And you know a nigga glorious, but we still keep the G on. Keep them tools Home Depot. Might hit her with the Rico. Hey, hit the nigga with the Rico. Hey, said they fuck with the rap game. What you looking at me for? So I know they can't stand me. That's why I keep a Glock handy. Might sip a little brandy. While I'm chilling with the family. Tell them a real nigga landed. Dressing all black like a bandit. Bitch, I ain't come to play. No, I ain't playing. Bitch, I came to do that. No coward, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. So back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go, never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. No coward old nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know. That I was gone, but I never left. Back now. I thought I'd let you know. This brotherhood is a weapon, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. Big bow, big bow. Hey, Babylon fall, Babylon fall. You know the paper nigga walk, the paper nigga walk. Nigga raised up, now I'm all in. And all I ever wanted, the wind and the big body bend. Now I'm gone in the wind, trying to stack a couple in. Now let's get it in, let's get it in. About to make the shit tremble. 144, the real. About to turn it up a left. Hit the bitch up like loud. In the probably bring a whole mob. And know that we feel our pop. And I'm headed for the top dollar. And they ain't never gonna stop. No coward, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip. And I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. No coward, no nigga came back down.
Hey, Shalom, Yahweh Shabbat.
Shalom Adawan, Yahweh Shabbat.
Shalom Israel, Yahweh Shabbat to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemar, Al-Thaba Hashem Yahushai to all the sisters. This is I.S.U.P.K. Canada Saturday night scripture breakdown class. Saturday night at 8 p.m. Every Saturday night at 8 p.m. we have a scripture breakdown class. Right? This is a mandatory class for everyone in Canada. Right? We're going to be talking about the hate from our adversaries tonight. Right? There is a man, a woman, and a child who's hated throughout the whole earth. Right? No matter where that man, that woman, or that child is, they are hated. There are nations that hate these men, these women, and these children. Right? And those men, women, and children are the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right? Shalom, the article that I sent to you on the WhatsApp, can you pull that up for us, Bubba Kashar, and screen share it?
Come.
Right. So there's a nation that of men and women and children who are hated. Right? They've always hated us, and they're going to continue to hate us because that is their nature. Right? That's what they do. Right? Whenever you got that article, well, basically, like if you've been paying attention to the news, right? Every other day, some Black, Hispanic, or Native American is being oppressed or harassed, right? Or some injustice is happening to them. And when you look to find out who's doing it, 9 times out of 10, it's 10 times out of 10, it's the other nations. It's the heathen nations, right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are the Israelites, right? Before we continue, if you are watching, there is a sign-in link. If you are trying to get Hebrew benefits and be a part of the school and get a name for yourself, there's a sign-in link. Hit that sign-in link, pay your tithes, support this truth, support the school, right? And we'll be in a neighborhood near you, right? We're building up Canada. Right now, Canada is full of brothers and sisters who, unfortunately, right now, they are weak. They are weak, and they will not fight for their people. They don't know how to fight for their people, right? They want to celebrate the oppressors. They want to love the oppressors, right? They want to cleave onto every nation that hates them, right? But that's why we're here. We're the I.S.U.P.K. under Commanding General YAHANNA. Started out 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We've been established since 1969. And we've been telling blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans since 1969, you are the Israelites, you are God's chosen people, and there is a way to get out of this oppression. Right? You can read that article whenever you have it.
Come. This is the title of this article is Chinese restaurant ordered to pay black patron $10,000 for making him prepay for meal.
Right. So hold that right there. This, go back up, right there. Hold it right there. Right, you could drop it just a little more because I wanted to get the image. Right, this is a very popular restaurant among the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right, this is they call it Hung Sheng. I call it the unclean house. Right, this restaurant is unclean. If you go into this restaurant to sin, basically. This is where you go get your spicy cockroaches, your spicy sea roaches, right? You get that Young and Dundas mouse from Hung Sheng. Across the street from it was Watu's. That was another restaurant that literally 5 steps away. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we would frequent this restaurant every night, damn near every night and every weekend, right? Because it's steps away from the club district. It's open until about 4 a.m., right? And Salakia, while I was in the world, this is a spot to go to. Like, if you went to the club and you didn't see the sister that you wanted, or you seen the sister that you wanted in the club and you didn't get to see her, you seen her in passing, go to Hung Sheng and just wait a little. You're going to see her stroll by. Right. This is where every Black, Hispanic, and Native American goes. This is where, in this area, a lot of violence happens. A lot of ungodly things happen in this area, right? But before Hung Sheng, they would go to Watu's, right, to get that spicy rat. They'd get the spicy mouse, right, or the General Tao mouse, General Tao rat, right? Salakia. So this brother, he went into this restaurant and he was told to prepay. Right now, if you know anything about your oppressor judges you off your skin color. At all times, he judges you off your skin color. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yashar Barakatha.
Yahweh Shem Yashar Barakatha. What's going on, word?
Right, Thawada for coming on and being on camera. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yashar Barakatha.
Shalom, officer. Shalom, officer. Shalom, trooper. Yahweh Shem Yashar Barakatha.
Right. So this is that restaurant. This is that restaurant that every Black, Hispanic, and Native American would go to. And he was told to prepay. Right now, if you're Black, Hispanic, and Native American, this is not something that you haven't heard before. Sometimes you go to restaurants, especially when you were the club district, when they wanted you to get into a cab right after, you tell them where you're going, and they want you to pay first, right? They want you to pay first before you get the service, right? So you can continue reading.
Okay. A Chinese restaurant in Toronto has been ordered to pay a black customer $10,000 after a government human rights tribunal found the establishment discriminated against him by making him and 3 friends pay for their food before being served.
Right. So again, this brother, he was, how many friends was he with, Officer Shariwan?
Sir Slucky, he was with 3 friends.
Right. So him and 3 friends, they went out for a night out. Those 3 friends, you could, just by reading the rest of the article, you don't see a picture of the 3 friends, but you could assume all 3 friends were men or women of color. Right. They went out to get something to eat, and he was told that he has to pay first. Right, which is very unusual, because how do you even know what you want? Right. Well, so how do you know what the bill is going to be? Right. A lot of times when you go out, you might eat something, you might not be satisfied, you want something else. Right. So he was told he had to pay first, which nobody pays first for food. You get the food and then you pay. You could pay first and then get the wrong order. You can pay first and it's something that is not to your liking. Right? It could totally be not what they told you they were making for you. Right? Yo, these tambourines are sweet. Salaki, I'm eating some tambourines right now, man. Tambourine, like if you're from the Caribbean, you know about that tambourine. Right? Salakia. You can continue reading.
Emil Wickham, 31, filed a complaint with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario against the Hong Shing Chinese restaurant, where he and his friend all
throughout it. So Wickham, right? They went out. They were told they had to pay first. While they realized they were the only ones told to pay first, they filed a complaint with this restaurant. Right now, there's supposed to be a Stop Asian Hate, right? But all you're seeing when you read this is Asians hate black men. They hate the Black, Hispanic, and Native American man. Right? They thought the man and his 3 friends were going to steal food. They were going to go in, eat the food, and run out. Right? On Dundas Street, Dundas and University, in the High Court area, right next to the Salakia. What is this? I think that's 55 Division. 10 steps away is 55 Division. Right? That's what these heathens, these adversaries to the Black, Hispanic, and Native American man were thinking. They were thinking that all black men steal. Right? Go back up to the picture of the brother Baba Kasha.
Come.
Shout out to Sister Kawapa. Yahweh Shalom Yahweh Shamar Alathaba Hashem Yahshai. Right, look at this brother. Is there? Well, that's good enough. Look at this brother. This brother, if I seen this brother, I'd ask him if he's a banker, a lawyer, an accountant, a real estate agent. Do you sell cars? Not Hondas. Do you sell Lamborghinis? Right? That's what I would say if I seen this brother. This brother looks like he controls stocks in the downtown Toronto core. Right? But they saw this brother, they saw a criminal. Right? And that's what our adversaries do. Our adversaries hate us. We're not supposed to be a people to them, a people with morals, right? And in their mind, we're supposed to go into their restaurant, stuff our gullet, and then run out. Right? You can continue reading, Baba Kasha.
Come. Emil Wickham, 31, filed a complaint with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario against the Hong Shing Chinese restaurant, where he and his friends, all black, dined on his birthday on May 3rd, 2014, and discovered that they were likely the only party asked to prepay for their order.
Good night. Right, so he and his friends, they were told to prepay for their order, right? They did, is what we're gonna find out as we continue to read the article, right? Then they thought about it and said, that is weird. Even though it's something that this is something that happens a lot of times to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right? You go out to eat, you try to jump in some cab, you tell them, I need to go to here and here, or I want to order this, and they say pay first, and you're noticing that no one else is paying first. And you also know that when you go to a restaurant to go sit down and eat, nobody pays first. You run up that bill until you're satisfied, and then you leave. Like, then you, after you had good service, you might give a tip. Right? Keep reading.
Come. In this case, I find that the applicant was racially profiled on the day in question, the tribunal wrote in a ruling released on Monday. And
right. Can you, Baba Kasha, can you, at the top of the article, is there a date for when this incident happened?
Salakia, this article was written on May 1st of 2018. I believe this incident happened on, it says when he dined on his birthday on May 3rd of 2014.
Right. So this is basically recently. It's only been a couple years. Right. This is, now you would think that this is happening in 1940.
Okay.
You would think that this is happening, let's say, you would think that this is happening a long time ago, when it's not, right? The Black, Hispanic, and Native American man has fought for civil rights, right? They fought for equality, and as we bled, cried, and died, and went through the ringer to get a smidge, a pinch, just a dash, just a sprinkle of basic human rights, and not to be treated like some type of animal, right? We are the ones who died for it. Well, as soon as the people in power, the government, our oppressor, starts to give just a little rope, right? Just a little slack in the rope, every other nation jumps on and says they want their equality. That's what happens. And when they get their equality, they go back to what the oppressor says to do, and they terrorize Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, right? Now, not all terrorism happens physically. Some terrorism is mentally, right? A lot of the stress that we go through in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community is mental stress, right? Like, as a Black man walking around in the city of Toronto, you feel as if you're always being judged, as if you're always being looked at as a criminal, right? The reason why is because we're always being looked at as criminals, right? When the real criminals are our oppressors, right? The real criminals are the ones who are bringing in the fentanyl, the guns, and all the drugs into our community and selling them out the back of their restaurants, out the back of their stores, right? They're having whole wars in the streets of Toronto, these heathen nations, right? And it's always getting blamed on the Black man, on the Hispanic man, right? Their drugs go into our communities frequently, right? This man, he realized that he was being racially profiled, right? So Salakia, Baba Kashaw, someone get me the definition for racially profiled.
Come. Oh,
Right. Whenever
Salakia.
you have it, you can read it.
Come, sir.
Right.
Salakia,
I got a definition.
going a little slow.
It's all good. Trooper Baraka Allah, did you say something? I can't hear you. Your volume is very low.
Salaki, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's still very low.
Salakia, sir, I got it open.
Khan. Go ahead.
Come, sir. The definition of racial profiling refers to the discriminatory practice by law enforcement officials of targeting individuals for suspicion of crime based on the individual's race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin.
Right. So read that the last like midway drop from there again.
Come, sir. Targeting individuals for suspicion of crime based on the individual's race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin.
Right. It's a crime to walk into a restaurant, order something, and not pay for it. Right. These black men were targeted, right, by some racist Asian men who thought they were going to commit a crime, right? When these black men, they didn't want to commit any crime at all. They just wanted to get something to eat, right? That's what they wanted. Right.
Salakia, sir, your mic's on mute.
Salakia, can you get Salakia is doing it again. For some reason, this mic keeps jumping out. Can you break down Deuteronomy 28 and 1, Baba Kasha?
Come. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1. And it says, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth." Understand, Salakia? This is the Most High making a covenant with the children of Israel. You understand? When the children of Israel came out of Egypt, the Most High gave laws, statutes, and commandments. He gave rules. He gave regulations. You understand? And he told the children of Israel that if they would listen to him, if they would obey him, if they would do what he says, every word, that he would set them on high. You understand? This is why in Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 7 it says, King Solomon, he saw princes as slaves, princes as servants, princes walking the earth serving other people. because the nation of Israel was meant for rulership. We're supposed to be on high. You understand? We're not supposed to be low. And this is what Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1 was saying. And let's jump.
I appreciate that, right? So we were supposed to be a nation that's on high, right? In this kingdom, we're treated to being very low, right? Baraki Allah, are you here with us?
Khan, can you hear me better now, Adawan?
Khan, I can hear you. I can hear you much better now. One moment. Slovakia, give me one moment. I gotta plug in my laptop before it dies. Can you get me Deuteronomy 14 and 2, Baba Kasha? Right? We're supposed to be a nation that's supposed to be high above all the nations. In this kingdom, we're treated as we're less than dirt. They treat us below the dirt, right? This brother, he was treated, him and his Patreons, right? Him and his friends that he went out with, like they were the worst people in the world, right? They were treated like Salah, like they came in to commit a bank robbery. Like they have a history of fraud. Like they went into that restaurant before and dined and dashed, right? You see so many TV shows on a regular basis where they make light of the fact that our oppressor goes into restaurants, orders food, and runs out, right? These brothers were treated as if they stole a country, forced kids into residential schools, and forced Native Americans onto reserves, right? When that's the total opposite. The black man, you are hated. Hispanic man, Native American man, you are hated in this kingdom, right? You're hated because the world knows who you are. They know you're God's chosen people, right? And because of that, they hate you. Baba Kasha, can you keep reading the article wherever you left off?
Okay. In his complaint filed in May 2015, Wickham wrote that he had never eaten at the restaurant prior to dining there on his birthday. He wrote that shortly after being seated, the server told them that they would need to pay in advance of being served their meals. They asked the server whether this was necessary, and he said that it was their policy, according to Wickham's statement tribunal.
Right.
In response,
so this man was singled out. He was lied to. He was told that this is their policy. This is not a policy of any majority of the restaurants. Salakia, Akim, have you ever been to a restaurant in the GTA where they told you had to pay first to dine in and eat?
Salakia, other one, not one.
Right. I haven't either. Right. I've seen restaurants where they're more like takeout spots where they have a few spaces where you can eat and there is no server. Like you go up to the counter, you pay for your food, you get it right at the counter, and then you go eat, kind of like a food court. But that's not where this place is. This place is not a food court style type of restaurant. This is a restaurant with waiters, with servers, with a menu that you get when you sit down at the table. Right? So this brother, he was read that last part again.
Come. They asked the server whether this was necessary, and he said that it was their policy, according to Wiccan's statement to the tribunal.
Right. They used the word necessary. Right? They knew something was off. For a brother to go to someone and say, "Is this necessary? Like, why are you asking me to pay before I get my meal?" Right? Before we've been served one drink, we're being told we have to pay already. Right? And that's what this brother told the tribunal. Right? This brother did the right thing by making a fuss about this. And this is something that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they should do. Whenever you're faced with injustice, don't sweep it under the rug. Right? When you sweep it under the rug, that's when they tend to keep doing it. Right? You have to take this. You have to complain about this. Right? The better thing to do is not even to go to these restaurants. Right? That is the best thing to do. Don't go give your money to your oppressors. There is some sister who owns a restaurant in your neighborhood who she makes better food. Right? You have to support your own. You have to love your own. And this is what we lack. We envy our, and when I say we, I'm talking about outside of this school. We envy our oppressors. Right? We want to do what they do. We want to eat their food. Right? Their food, like Salakia. I haven't eaten any Asian dishes in, I'd say, about maybe a year, 2 years, right? Because whenever I get hungry, I'm like, what do I want to eat today? Now I will see the Asian spot and be like, all right, I might go get some General Tao if it's chicken, or you know what, that brother down the street, he got that curry chicken guanin right now. I'm going over there for some rice and peas with the gravy, right? A little oxtail gravy on my rice and peas, right? I'd rather go get those oxtails than that General Tao mystery meat, right? Trooper Baraka Allah, can you read Deuteronomy 14:2?
Kana Wakan.
And Officer Yerad, bring me to Psalms 83, Baba Kasha. Whenever you have it,
Deuteronomy 14:2. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord has chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all nations that are upon the earth.
Right. So just like we read in Deuteronomy 28:1, we're supposed to be high above all nations in the earth. We're a peculiar people. We're different. We're not supposed to be treated like criminals, right? We don't have to go to these restaurants to be treated like criminals. You should not spend your money with the nation of people who hate you, right? These people hate you, and they're going to continue hating you, right? But the Lord, he loves you, right? He loves you so much that when you were messing up, he decided to punish you because he loves you. He didn't want to see you keep messing up, right? The Lord chose us, right? You don't need no Moabite to choose you, right? The Lord has chosen us. We do not need our oppressors. All we need is each other, right? Read that one more time, Baba Kasha.
Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 2. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself.
Right.
Above,
We're a holy people unto thy God, and a chosen people, peculiar, right? We're different. We don't do the same things that the other nations do. They know that. They know we're about to get rulership of this kingdom, right? So they're going to keep hating us. That's what they've always done. They've always hated us. Right? Finish that verse out, Baba Kasha.
and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth.
Right. Black, Hispanic, and Native American man and woman, you are above the Moabites at Hung Shing. Right? You are better than the Moabites at Hung Shing. Right? You are better than your oppressors. You don't have to go to your oppressors' restaurants to be treated as some common criminal. Like the with all the stealing that our oppressor, the European man, has done, you've never heard a European man say, I went into an Asian restaurant and I was told to pay first. Right? But the people who've been stolen, who've been raped, who've been murdered, who's been treated like garbage, right? You'll have thousands of stories of them saying, I was told to pay first. I was followed around in this store. I was accused of stealing, right? This is something that happens to all of us, right? Like that Salaki. I'm not sure how many of the Akim are familiar with what's that movie? Right now, this is a movie. It's a fictional movie, but it has there's parts in this movie that ring true to the suffering that we go through. Right? How many brothers and sisters have seen Menace to Society?
Sir.
Right? In Menace to Society, there is a famous line by Asian the so-called people who got the bill passed for Stop Asian Hate, when really it's stop the hate of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? Stop the Asian hate of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's what it's really about. There's a famous line in that movie, hurry up and buy. Right? And whenever we go into Asian restaurants or establishments, it's always a hurry up and buy attitude we're given, even if they don't say hurry up and buy. Right? How many brothers, like Akim, have you been followed around in a store before? Like you just get the sense that someone's following you around in the store, even though you have cash in your pocket.
God, Salakia, sir. I was just what came to mind was every time you go to those hair stores, you always got it's like every aisle you go down, they always have some Asian employee in the same aisle putting something away. It's like you can't be in an aisle without one of their Asian employees.
Right. That's definitely true. You always have some Asian putting away the wave caps, the do-rags, right? Putting away some grease, and you notice like that box of grease is still the same. You could walk by them like 10 times. That box of grease, the quantity in the box of grease hasn't decreased, right? It's always the same, and whenever you might turn around and you feel like someone's looking at you, you turn around for a second and you're like, did their head just move? Like, did they just stop looking at me? Right? You can keep, what else do we have left in this article?
Salakia, sir, we still have
quite a bit. All right, we'll get through this article.
Come.
You can continue reading.
Come, sir. In response to Wickham's complaint, the restaurant told the tribunal that it had instituted the policy due to a rash of dine and dash customers. Many years ago, the restaurant adopted a policy that where the staff on duty did not know the patron as a regular customer, they would ask for prepayment for the food being ordered before it was served, according to the restaurant's response. Wickham and his friends complied with the request to prepay, but Wickham said in his complaint that it did not sit well with him. He said he spoke to several groups dining at the restaurant and learned that none of them was asked to pay for their meals in advance.
Salakia. So you're telling me that this brother was in the restaurant with another group of black men, right? He went to go get something to eat. He was given some lie about a policy enforced over dine and dash, right? And it just so happens that he was the customer chosen to prepay for food, right? You would have thought he was going in to buy cell phone minutes, right? He had to prepay for those minutes before he could sit down. You could keep reading.
Come.
And Akim, if you
The
have anything you
applicant-
want to add, y'all can jump in, chime in at any time.
Khan, Salaki, Adawan, if I may.
Right.
So just a thought that came to mind when I read that too is I've worked downtown for years,
Right.
and these Asian restaurants, they have lineups upon lineups of people ordering food.
Right.
And like the amount of money these restaurants make just being downtown is ridiculous. Right? And if somebody actually felt the need to dine and dash, Salaki, if that were me, I'd just leave them alone. You know what I mean? Like enjoy, like if it's if you're hurting that much for money that you gotta dine and dash just to get some food, Lord be with you. You
Right.
understand? Like it's the and Salaki and the amount of food they throw out at the end of the night too. Like it's hard for me to understand why they would make that policy.
Right. That's definitely a good point, right? Like you are somebody who cares, right, about your people. Where if you had a restaurant and you seen a brother come in and he dined and dashed, you would know that brother is hurting. No brother wants to be accused of dining and dashing, right? No brother even wants to do that. But if a brother does do it, he's hurting, right? In the I.S.U.P.K, if a brother is hurting, he could turn to his brothers, right? If he really needs something to eat, he could always call his brothers and say, "Listen, I'm hurting right now. I need something to eat." Right? Also, when I was younger, I worked in a donut shop. Right? This is a well-established donut shop that had a long chain of franchises, right? And their waste would be by the garbage bag. Salakia. Their waste would be by the garbage bag full, right? They would have throughout the day of making donuts, their waste for donut waste at the end of the day would be at least 6 to 8 garbage bags full of donuts, full of pastries, full of bagel type foods that they could give away, right? And I remember asking the devil that was my supervisor, why don't we just give this away to some homeless shelter? Right? So they were asking, why are Salakia? I was asking, why aren't you giving away this food to some homeless shelters? Like there's so many people, especially in the area that I worked in, there was a Fred Victor homeless shelter, and they said, well, we don't want to get sued in case the donuts make someone sick. And I said, wait 1 second. Those donuts that you just took off the shelf that you were going to sell to somebody, 3 minutes ago you were going to sell it to somebody. 2 minutes later you want to throw it out, and you're afraid to get sued, right? Salakia, we got someone in the comments. They're asking, why are we talking about this and not preaching the gospel? Right. Well, if you pay attention, you will hear us talking to our brothers and sisters. This is for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is the only channel that's going to tell them, right? In Canada, any ISUPK channel is going to tell Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who they are, the laws, statutes, and commandments, how to get out of oppression, and how to get out of oppression, and why we're going through this oppression. Now, if you don't like what we're saying, go start your own YouTube channel, get on your own live, and go preach the gospel. Shalom. Right. So that's the mind state of these devils, of these oppressors, right? Of these heathen nations. They only care about the bottom line, right? Have you ever been 10 cents short in an Asian restaurant? Did you ever get the food? Right. After you could have been shopping there for 20 years. 10 cents short and you're not getting the food. Salakia, I was shopping the other day, doing some grocery shopping, right? This is in a Black community, at a no frills in a Black community. A brother, he wanted another bag, right? In Ontario, we have a 5 cents per plastic bag policy. He already got 10 bags and couldn't fit everything. So he told the lady, listen, can I get an extra bag? He did not have the 5 cents for that extra bag. That brother was going through it, right? The Asian lady at the counter said, no, I can't give you an extra bag because you don't have the 5 cents. After this brother already spent $850 on food. He just didn't have that 5 cents at the moment.
Right.
Right. So you know that's the heart of our oppressor, right? Baba Shah, what do we got left of this article?
Slacky, so there's still a bit to read.
All right, Officer Rod, get me Psalms 83, Baba Shah.
Is the book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 1, and reads, keep not thou silent, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. Verse 2, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Right. There are nations of people who hate Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. They hate God. God's chosen people are Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So because they hate God, because they hate our power, they have to hate the Lord's chosen people. Right. Jump down to read verse 3, Baba Kasha.
Verse 3, defend the poor and fatherless.
Salakia, Psalms 83, verse 3.
Salakia. Verse 3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones.
Right. The nations that hate us, they've decided to come against us. Right. They've got together and said, how do we make money off these slaves? How do we keep them in slavery? How do we keep the Lord's chosen people at the bottom of our feet? Right. Jump down to verse 5, Baba Kasha?
So verse 5. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
Right. Read verse 6, Baba Kasha.
Verse 6. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab.
Of who?
Moab.
But Salakia, who are the children of Moab?
Slack, sir. The children of Moab are the so-called Chinese or the Asian.
Right. Keep reading, Baba Kasha.
Come, sir. And the Hagarenes, Salakia.
Come.
Verse 7, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek and the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre.
Right. So the Ammonites are the Japanese, right? That's right. Israel 9/11. The Moabites are Chinese, right? And they hate blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? I remember watching the episodes of Black Watch, right? And they showed during the Rodney King riots a Asian woman shoot a young sister in the head because she was accusing her of stealing, right? And the sister wasn't stealing, right? In Jamaica, an Asian woman slapped a young sister for accusing her of stealing. Let me see if I can find that video for you, right? They accused this sister of stealing, and she slapped her, right? Salakia, Officer Shariwan, find me the scripture that says we'd be scattered across the world. We'd be scattered throughout the nations, right?
Come.
Right. We're hated by these nations, right? They definitely hate us. They want us to suffer. They don't want us to know who we are. And just imagine a place where blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans love each other, right? Where blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans treat each other like kinfolk, like family, right? Where we don't fight each other, we don't hate each other, right? Whenever you have that scripture, let me know.
Come, sir. Salakia.
Right. For Israel 9/11, we're gonna answer your question in one moment. Is there Israelites in Asia? Right. The short answer: there are Israelites in every country in the world. We were scattered all throughout the world. Right. We're gonna find you the precept on that right now. Right. But we were scattered all throughout the world. But just because there are Israelites in Asia, that doesn't mean Asians are Israelites, if you understand what I'm saying, right? The Chinese man is not an Israelite, right? Though an Israelite can be born and have Chinese citizenship, right? Just like there's Israelites in Canada, but we're not Canadian, right? We're not. We could be born in Germany, but we're not the Edomites of Germany. Right, Officer Rod, you could keep 1 second. Where were we?
Like I said, we were in Psalms 83 and verse 8.
Right. You know what? Bring me down to read from verse 4, Baba Kasha.
So verse 4.
Salakia. Read from verse 14, Baba Kasha. That's what I meant to say.
So verse 14, it reads, as the fire burneth a wood, as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. Verse 15, so persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm.
Right, hold that right there. If you look into these Asian countries right now, there are flooding, there are typhoons, there are monsoons happening right now. All you have to do is go into your Google machine and type in go into the world news, right? Go into the weather side of the world news. You'll see tragedy happening to these countries, right? The Asians have hated us for forever. They've ultimately hated us, right? Now you're starting to see monsoons more. You're starting to see more earthquakes in diverse places. You're starting to see more tragedies happening to the Asians. They've hated us, and because of their hate for us, the Lord started a plague with them, right? The Lord started a plague that is still carrying on to right now with them, right? Because they've hated us, because they've prosecuted us without just cause. You could drop that. Let's get Baba Kasha, Officer Shariwan. Did you find that verse?
Come, sir.
You can read that verse, Baba Kasha.
Come. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
Right. So the Israelites, right? These are curses, right? Baba Kasha, jump to verse 15 just so we can get some context of what we just read.
Come. Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Right. Now jump right back down throughout it. Jump right back down to 64.
Come.
And you can read 64 again.
Come. Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
Right. Baba Kasha, Officer Shariwan, break down 64 for me for a second, Baba Kasha.
Come. So Salaki is. So this is the covenant that the Most High made with the children of Israel. You understand? The Most High said in Deuteronomy 28 and 1 that if we would listen, we would be placed on high above all nations of the earth. But in verse 15, we begin to see what would happen if we would disobey the covenant, if we would disobey our Father, if we wouldn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. And after verse 15, it goes on to list a lot of curses that would befall the children of Israel, punishments that would happen to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians if they would disobey the Most High. So in verse 64, one of the punishments for disobeying the Most High is that we would be scattered from one end of the earth even unto the other. And it goes on to read, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. there's definitely blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that are scattered to the four corners of the earth. And everywhere that we go, we are worshiping other gods. We are celebrating or worshiping that white Jesus, worshiping Christianity, worshiping Islam. You got brothers and sisters worshiping Buddha. You understand? And whatever gods those Chinese people have. You understand? Our people get into yoga and they begin to worship those elephant statues and different graven images. You understand? This is a curse that befell blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. This is something that we go through today. You understand? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we don't have knowledge of self. We don't know who we are. You understand? And because of that, we've lost our culture. We've lost our language. We've lost our identity. You understand? You most definitely have blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians living in Asia. In Slovakia.
Israel 9/11, nobody blocked you, right? We'll just leave it at that. Nobody blocked you. We are just answering your question. Maybe something's happening with your internet, but we have no reason to block anybody here. We're here to teach blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who they are and why they're being hated. Right? What's left of that article that we have? Let's get back to that article. Let's finish that out.
Come.
No sweat.
So the article goes on to read, the applicant testified that each group had more than one person at the table and that there were no other black patrons in the restaurant.
There were what? There were no other black patrons? Can you read that again? I'm not sure I heard you properly.
Okay. The applicant testified that each group had more than one person at the table and that there were no other black patrons in the restaurant.
So these were the only black men in the restaurant, right? And somehow they had to pay for their food first before they could get it. Before they could get a drink of any strong, right? They had to pay for it first, right? Which is definitely weird because, like Officer Shariwan said, right? These restaurants, they see thousands of people daily, right? Weekly, they see double-digit thousands of people, right? And they don't tell everybody to go into the restaurant, who goes into the restaurant, that they have to pay first. Especially the European man, the oppressor who has stolen millions of acres of land, right? They don't tell him that he has to pay first, right? They go to the victim of crime and say, listen, we understand you're the victim of crime, but we got some more crime to commit on you, right? Keep reading.
Okay. Wickham immigrated to Canada from Trinidad and Tobago when he was 20 years old. And at the time of the incident, he was a sociology student at York University in Toronto and worked as an usher at the Ontario Legislative Assembly. Consequently, he says that his lived experience is such that he did not encounter a great deal of anti-black racism prior to coming to Canada. He testifies that he was not used to being treated like a second-class citizen because of his race and was not accustomed to having negative behavior being attributed to him given his skin color.
Read that part again. Baba Kasha?
Khan. He testified that he was not used to being treated like a second-class citizen because of his race, and was not accustomed to having negative behavior being attributed to him given his skin color.
Right. Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, y'all have to like, just because something doesn't happen to you all the time does not mean it's not happening. Right? We have to get out of this mentality where if it's not happening to me, it doesn't happen. Right? Trooper Baraka Allah, get me Ezekiel 39 and 23, Baba Kasha. Right? For the question in the chat, right? The question is, Native Americans don't look like the blacks. How comes they are both the same people? Right? That answer is very simple, right? We've gone through a few different captivities, right? Not all blacks look like blacks. Like, not all black people look alike. Like, there are subtle differences between, you could say, the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin, right? There are subtle differences between the Dominican and the tribe of Simeon and the tribe of Levi, right? But they're still the same people. Native Americans are Israelites because they are Israelites, right? Because they've gone through the curses, because they come from the same father, Jacob, right? Yashra Allah in the Hebrew. They come from Israel, right? And a way you could tell who Native Americans are, you just have to go through their history, right? If you go through, 1 second, let me find it. If you read this book right here, Black Indians, you're going to see pictures of Native Americans who look exactly like blacks, right? Black people go through a thing called colorism, right? Where if a man doesn't have the same skin tone as you, you're going to be like, oh, how are they the same? How are we the same, right? East Indians have dark skin. No one says East Indians are black, right? But if you go through this book, you'll find out that we are the same, right? That blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the same, right? If you all you have to do is go through Deuteronomy, right? Salakia. Let's go through a couple curses in Deuteronomy. We got a little time before we have to get through the rest of this, right? Because that's definitely a question that keeps coming up, and that's something that you have to. That's something that we have to get out of our mind, right? We have to get out of our mind. You know what? We'll go through a couple curses, but what you should do is you should go on to the Cross the Line Patreon, right? And look for the 12 tribe lecture. Officer Shayuan, if you can find the 12 tribe lecture, the YouTube link, can you drop it in the chat, Baba Kasha? Or somebody drop it in the chat for me. Right? We have a lecture. There is another one I'm gonna find right now. A lecture that happened last night. If not yes, Baba Kasha, it was last night. Khan, it was last night. And it breaks down how blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, how we became separate, right?
And Salakia, sir, if I may, I have a precept for the brother.
Khan, I was looking for one myself. You could drop yours.
Khan. This is the book of John, chapter 7, and verse 24. It says, "Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment." You understand? Like Officer Zabadi was bringing out, blacks have an issue of colorism. You understand? Because of the oppression we've been in, and because of the way the society has taught us, you understand? This society has taught us to identify ourselves as black, as a color. They've taught us to identify the European man as white. You understand? Like, this society has taught us colorism. You understand? Our oppressor has gone around committing so many types of evil, so much atrocities based off of how somebody looks.
Right.
Understand? But that's not something that we should be doing.
Right.
That's not a philosophy that we should take on as a Black, Hispanics, and Native Indians.
Right.
Right? The scripture says, don't judge according to appearance. You understand? Don't look at how our Native Indian brothers look, you understand, and judge them because of how they look. You understand? We can read in Deuteronomy 28, and we can see all the curses fitting them to a T. You understand? I'll drop that 12 tribes lecture, but I know Captain Kataza there says that even if you were to just look at some of the artifacts that they've dug up, he would argue that Native Americans have the most amount of traces of being the children of Israel over any other tribe. You understand? So there's definitely no question about it that Native Americans are the children of God.
Right.
You understand? And Salaki, that was it, sir.
Right. Now that's definitely heavy, right? If you could, Officer Shariwan, can you get Jeremiah 12:9, Babu Kasha?
Come on, sir.
And Salakia, who's holding Ezekiel 39 for me?
Khan, I have the scripture out of one.
Okay, Khan, just hold that. Officer Urad, get me the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Right. Officer Shariwan, you can read that precept whenever you have it.
Come on, sir. This is Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 9. Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field. Come to devour.
Right. Like blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we have different skin tones, right? You have to remember that Israel, right? Israel, Jacob, he had 4 wives, right? He had 4 wives. I'll say it again. He had 4 women who he slept with, and they gave him 12 sons. He had daughters as well. They gave him 12 sons, right? Those 12 sons made up the 12 tribes of Israel, right? That's why, right? Now, if you we dropped a couple links, right? One of the links is that happened last night. It's how blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans, we became divided. The other is a 12 tribe chart breakdown that will perfectly answer why it might seem that because blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans have slightly different facial features, right? Slightly different facial features and skin tones, why they're not the same, right? But all you have to do is know that you might not look like you might not have the same skin tone as a Native American man, but that's your brother. He's gone through the same curses, right? Let me get one more, Officer Shariwan. Let's get Deuteronomy 28 and what are we looking for? Get me Deuteronomy 28 and 41, Baba Shah. We'll read that quickly. We'll finish out this article and go into the rest of these precepts that we have. Salakia, Ak, you're on mute.
Salakia, sir, did you say verse 41?
Khan.
Khan. So it's Deuteronomy 28 and verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Right. Israel 9/11. If you've been paying attention to the news, like the men in the I.S.U.P.K have recently, you would have found out that thousands of dead bodies of Native American children were discovered in residential schools, right? Their parents were giving birth to them. Our sisters were going through 9 months of travail only to have that baby snatched out of her arm to go into a residential school and tortured, right? That mother, that father never got to enjoy their child. Those are some of the curses that Blacks, Hispanics, and especially Native Americans have gone through, right? And all you just read Deuteronomy 28, and you'll see a list of curses that match Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? And when you go through those curses, you could literally do a pros and cons board where you put Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans on one side and everybody else on the other side, and see who matches these curses. You're gonna find out that all of these curses match Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right. So we're going to drop that. If you have any more questions pertaining to the subject, you could definitely drop your questions in. We'll try to answer them. If we can't answer them at the moment, tune back in next week, right? Or in any of the classes, and we'll have the answer for you. Right? This is not the Christian church where we will just lie to you and tell you anything. If we tell you something, it is a fact. We don't tell you lies. There's no point of telling you lies, because the only thing that our purpose is, like, we're not getting paid for this right now. No brother on this platform is getting paid for this, right? So to lie to you, there's no point, right? But we are working to build a kingdom of heaven, because Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are living in hell. And if you don't think Native Americans are living in hell, just go to Sault Ste. Marie, go to Caledonia, go to Six Nations, go to the Salakia, the Sioux Nation, right? The last question. 1 second.
So, Salakia,
Right.
Adawan.
Car.
I'm holding a precept for that last question. If you want me to bring it up.
Khan, you can bring it up.
So Salakia, to the brother's last question, did Native Americans cross Russia, Alaska border to get to North America? This is the book of 2nd Ezra's, chapter 13 and verse 40. Just for time's sake, I'll skip over some verses. Verse 40 says, "Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Osei the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land." Drop down to verse 43. "And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river."
Right.
Verse 44. "For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over." Verse 45. "For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth." And Salaki, I believe that word Arsareth means a land that no man has dwelt in before.
Right.
And so that is how the Native Americans made it over to North America.
Right. That's definitely heavy. Salakia, what's left in that article? Bring us down to the meat of that article where it talks about the brother receiving his $10,000.
Come on, sir. Slack, so we're almost at the end of the article. I
Khan, you
think
can finish it out.
Khan. So we read already that he received 10,000. The rest of the article says the applicant said that the encounter was particularly hurtful as the outing was special, and as he does not have many friends in Toronto, and because it was his birthday. Colin Lee, owner and manager of the Hong Shing restaurant, released a statement Monday saying, "We are deeply concerned about the situation and the people affected." Lee said the restaurant was under different management when the incident with Wickham and his friends occurred. There are a number of sensitivities and considerations about this situation, and for that reason, the tribunal outcome is under appeal by legal representatives. At this time, we cannot comment further beyond emphasizing that the current owner and staff are dedicated to be a committed, inclusive, and responsible member of the community.
Salakia, hold up.
Yeah.
That's how you know these agents. Read that statement one more time that you read.
Khan. At this time, we cannot comment further beyond emphasizing that the current owner and staff are dedicated to be a committed, inclusive, and responsible member of the community.
Right. That's a lie. Right. That's a blatant lie. Earlier, Officer Shariwan read that they're appealing the decision to reward this brother $10,000, right? That's a drop in the bucket from the millions this restaurant makes yearly. And when I say millions, they make millions, right? They're appealing it knowing they committed the crime. So they don't even want to be guilty of the crime. Right? But they say they care about the community, right? But they don't want to be guilty of the crime. They wanted to commit the crime, issue an apology, give back the money, and just say that was it, right? But you committed a crime against this black man and his friends, right? You hit them with some prejudice, right? You prejudged them. You made them feel terrible, right? You're paying for their pain and suffering. Right? You committed a crime. You're not supposed to discriminate against them, and you have to pay for that crime. Right? And now they're appealing it. Right? If Salakia, for the question that the brother asked, right? I'm not Salakia. For the question that was asked, right? The place in 2 Kings is Assyria, right? That would be in the land of Israel, right? Israel went through many captivities because we didn't keep the land. Our land got divided amongst the heathens because we didn't keep the law. That place where Samaria, the northern kingdom, was took, they were just taken into another place in Israel, right? Within that land, right? What else? Also, there is no evidence whatsoever of a land border or an ice border between Russia and Alaska, right? That's just myth that the oppressors say to make it seem like they didn't know what they were doing, like they didn't know about the Apocrypha, and they didn't know that they were going to hurt the children of Israel, right? Again, you should watch those documentaries, those the links that we dropped into the chat, right? Trooper Baraki Allah, can you get me Ezekiel? We could get rid of the screen share now, right? Can you get me Ezekiel 39:23, Baba Kasha? You can read that now.
Khan. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 39, verse 23. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them, and gave them into the hand of their enemies. So fell they all by the sword.
Right. Israel 11, you're better off posting the verse in the chat if you want to post something, because you saying that, I'm not gonna have time to look at it. We have something to teach, right? But because we turned against the Lord, right? The Lord turned against us. The heathens know the Lord is not with us at this moment, right? Until we start to come back to his law, statutes, and commandments, the Lord is just not with us. He is definitely punishing us for our crimes against him. For the adultery that we've committed against him, he is definitely punishing us. Good night. Oh, 1 second. I gotta plug my fan in right quick. These heathens know that, right? And that's what this is telling us. Like, the heathens know that because when we sin against the Lord, that's when they get to have power, right? And because they know that, they're gonna market their shrimps against us. They're gonna market their drugs to us. They're gonna market that we're supposed to love all nations, that we're supposed to sleep with their daughters, and we're supposed to give our sons and daughters to them, right? They know that everything stated above is a sin against our power, right? It's a sin to Yahweh. It's an abomination. It's adultery to go against him and break his law, right? Was that the end of the verse?
Kanawakan.
Right? And because we go against him, we end up falling to the sword from these heathen nations, right? Officer Urad, get me. Do you have the hands of the wicked?
Khan.
And Trooper Baraki Allah Baba Kasha, get me Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7. Servants on horse, right?
Kanawakan.
Salakia, Officer Urad, you could read Hands of the Wicked. That's it. Salakia, 1 second. Khan, you can read the Hands of the Wicked. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked.
Khan, sir. This is the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof.
Right. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. The wicked is our oppressor, right? The chief oppressor that we're under is the European man, the so-called pink man, right? That man, he is vain. He's the man who traded away his birthright, right, for something to eat. Under that man, you have Asians, you have the Moabites, the Ammonites, you have other tribes of Edomites, right? But he is the wicked. And because these nations follow that wicked man, they're wicked to who that man hates. That man hates blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So Asians, Moabites have to hate blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? It's supposed to be stop Asian hate, when really it's stop Asian hate against blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? And for Israel, you answered your own question with what you just posted, right? Deuteronomy 28 and 32 applies to Native Americans, right? So if you're wondering how Native Americans are blacks and blacks and Hispanics are the same, it's because they fit that curse right there, the one that you posted. Right. Again, Officer Urad, read that one more time.
Khan. The book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. The earth is given unto the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?
Right. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked, right? And our oppressor is the wicked, and these nations follow him. They know that if they follow him, and keep blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in captivity and under pressure, if they keep us under their thumb, under their heel, in the grinder, right? They know that they will be rich, right? There's no nation that got rich without the blood of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. No nation on earth has gotten rich without putting us into captivity, without putting us into slavery. That's what they were made to do. They were made like Salakia. They weren't made to do that, but they're here to punish us, right? If we don't follow the laws, statutes, and commandments of our Lord, the Lord is going to use his beating stick. His beating stick is the other nations. He sets it up for us to be under subjugation to them, because we don't want to be under subjugation to the Lord, right? Because we don't want to stop hating our brother, stop murdering our brother, stop selling drugs, stop sleeping with our brother's wife, because we don't want to celebrate Passover, because we want to continue to celebrate our birthdays, Valentine's Day, and all these so-called holidays that aren't high holy days, right? We're under these nations.
Right. That's
right. Israel 9:11. You just have to read again. Read Psalms 83. You're gonna find out that every nation touched Israel. Right. Officer Shariwan, can you get me Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7, Baba Kashar?
Come. Salaki. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10 and verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Right. Officer Shariwan, Baba Kashar, break that down for us.
Come, sir. Salaki, sir. This was King Solomon prophesying this. You understand? This is King Solomon, one of the wisest men to ever walk this earth.
Right.
He saw something that would happen in the future. He saw something that would befall the children of Israel. You understand? And he's saying he saw servants upon horses, meaning he saw nations of people, or Salakia, he saw a nation of people who was created to be below other nations in a high place. You understand? He saw servants on horses, servants in a high place of power, a high place of authority, a high position in the earth. You understand? And princes walking as servants upon the earth. You understand? He saw princes, Yasha Allah, the princes of the power. You understand? The people who were created for rulership. He saw those princes walking as servants upon the earth, serving other nations, serving their oppressors. You understand? King Solomon saw the children of Israel in a low place. And this is what you see today.
Right. That's definitely heavy. Give that officer a hand. That's definitely heavy, right? And that's what's going on for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? They're supposed to be in a high place right now on the earth, but it's not happening. They're not in a high place right now because they're walking next to the horse. They're supposed to be on the horse, right? But they're walking next to it. Now, if you want to think about this scene, what we're talking about, just think of the movie Django, right? Just think about the slavery of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? Native Americans and Hispanics went into slavery too. In fact, Native Americans and so-called Hispanics went into slavery first before the black man, right? When Christopher the rapist Columbus came over, that abuser, that devil, when he came over to abuse the children of Israel, he went and took 1,100 men to back to Spain with him when he so-called discovered this land, right? Now, out of those 1,100 captives that he took back to Spain with him, I think the number is 300. I'm quite sure the number is 300. That's how much survived out of 1,100. And he looked at it and he said that was good business, right? He's seen us. He's seen that we are a peaceable people. And he said, these people are supposed to be slaves, right? Again, if you watch the documentaries, the lectures that we put in the chat, right? If you click those YouTube links, you'll find those lectures and you'll find the same information that we're bringing out right now in those lectures. And it'll go into more detail. It'll tell you the books that you could find these lectures in, that you could find those quotes in, right? So blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you're living in hell right now. You're supposed to be going, you need to be saved, right? Right. You need to be saved. You need salvation, right? Salvation is coming for you, right? Because you're being tortured. You're being oppressed. You're being profiled. You're being treated as if you're the criminal of the earth, right? Officer Urad, get me Matthews 1 verse 21.
Khan. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 1, and verse 21. Okay. And it reads, and she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins.
Salakia, who is Jesus's people?
Salakia, sir. His people are the 12 tribes of Israel, the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native American.
Right. So you're gonna find out, like, what we're teaching you right now is blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are his people. Those are Christ's people. He came for them. Right? He came. Lock it. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, Christ came for you, right? He came to free you. He came to get justice for you. He came to show you love. He came to let you know that no matter what you're going through, stick with the Lord. And like Abraham, you're going to be well stricken in age, right? The Lord is going to be with you through all things.
That's right, sir.
Right.
Amen.
Khan, Salakia, you had something?
No, I'm saying damn right. I'm just agreeing with you, sir.
Khan. Right. That's definitely right. Right. It's definitely right that Christ came to save his people. Because if Christ doesn't come to save blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans, who will? Right? There's people who don't believe that Native Americans need to be saved, that blacks don't need to be saved, that Hispanics don't need to be saved, right? Those are the people that make money off of us, They're the people that enjoy our captivity, right? You get to go to Moxie's restaurant right now because Native Americans are on reservations not drinking clean water, right? You get to buy all the Nikes that you want right now because Native Americans had to go onto reservations and into residential schools, right? Because blacks pick cotton, now you get your Levi jeans for 89 cents. You don't have to make your own jeans. You don't have to pick that cotton yourself and spindle that wool yourself. Now you could just go to Yorkdale Mall and get your Levi's, right? You can get them on sale, $89 for 2 pairs of Levi's. And that you can only get that because blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are in captivity, right? Christ has to come and save blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans so oppressors can stop getting their Levi's for so goddamn cheap, right? Salakia, bring me Trooper Baraki Allah. Let me get Matthews 10 and 5, Baba Kasha. Right? Because while blacks, Hispanics are going through our captivity, there's something we have to realize that we're not gonna have to go through our captivity for long. Right? It's not gonna be too long if you keep the law, statutes, and commandments. So you can already see it. Listen, a tornado touched down in Berry last week, destroyed everything, damn near everything. Had these oppressors crying, had these oppressors have to show brotherhood to each other, right? They had to raise money. You know their community has it. They raise that money quick to start fixing houses, right? Tornadoes, wildfires are still burning. These wildfires, they're burning right now, right? And they're still burning right now. Salakia, earthquakes, tsunamis, more plagues, monkeypox, West Nile virus. They just found another mosquito with West Nile virus, right? The Lord's war tactics are different. He's sending plagues, and blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you have to see the signs of the time right now. Right, Salakia. Trooper Baraki Allah, you could read Matthew 5, Matthew 10, verse 5.
Kana Wakan is the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 5. These 12 Yahweh sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not.
Keep reading.
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Right, the Lord. One second. The Lord, our King, right? Our King Yahushua, right? He sent his disciples, right? The men that were under him, he sent them into the other nations to go read to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, to go read to Israelites, right? That's what we do right now. We in the ISUPK, we go everywhere. We don't play around when it comes to where to go, right? If we find out blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are there, we'll put our feelers out, right? Once we find one fish in that pond, we're going there. We're gonna go fishing there. We're gonna send the boats, the fishing lines, and the nets to try to get all the fish that we can, to try to get all the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that you can, right? Officer Shah Yuan, Babaka Shah, can you drop the sign out link? I believe the sign out link that was sent the other day.
Sorry, I got it.
Khan, Duwadak, right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, Christ came for you. Baba Kasha, can you keep reading?
Kana Wakan, verse 7. And as ye go, preach, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Verse 8.
Right, you can hold that right there.
Sick.
Slovakia. Right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Our kingdom is around the corner, but it's not going to be free. Right? You got to put in work. You can't be afraid to put in work. Right? If you're afraid to put in work for the kingdom, listen, you're still going to see the kingdom. You're just going to be you're not gonna be the brother that owns the McDonald's. You might be working in it, right? But if you keep the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, and you put in that work for your people, right? You sell off all your garments. Now that doesn't mean sell everything in your house, but basically sacrifice for your people, right? Don't be shy to put in work for them. Don't be shy to. Don't be afraid to want to see your people do good, right? Don't think that I don't have enough time in my day to go help a brother out, right? Because it can come to a point where you don't have any time in your day or any air in your lungs because the Most High just wasn't with you, right? Officer Rod, can you get me Matthew 15 and 24, Baba Kashan? Officer Urad, are you with us?
Salaki, sir, I got the verse.
Khan, I'm gonna let the trooper get it. Trooper Barakia Allah, can you get us Matthew 15 and 24, Baba Kasha? And Officer Shah-1, you can get me John 4 and 22. Those will be the last precepts before we end the class.
Okay.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Right. So for context, right, there was a woman of Canaan, right? She was crying, and her daughter had a demon on her, right? And she heard about Christ coming to heal, right? This is what always happens, right? Whenever they hear that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are doing good, they come to us to try to get our help, right? No matter the crimes that their people did. But she heard Christ was healing, so she wanted her daughter healed, right? And she kept bothering him she was bothering him to get her daughter healed, right? But Christ said, right? Keep reading. Read that one more time.
Kana Wakan. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Christ let her know that he came for Israel, right? Again, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, this is letting you know Christ died for you. He came for you. You're not going to have to go through this captivity too much longer once you start coming back to your culture. Once you wake up, once you realize who you are and what you're supposed to be doing in this earth, you're not going to have to worry about what's next too much. All you're going to have to worry about is taking orders from the men above you, right? And like our brother West Coast Natazab said, right? Natazab, he from the SAC out in California, right? He said, I don't have opinions, I just take orders, right? Once you get in this truth, you're gonna realize that, listen, it's so much better to not have an opinion. I say what the men above me tell me to say. Who cares what I think? The men above me say love blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. I say Canada one Khan. I don't even ask why, because it doesn't matter why. They're prophets. They said love your brother. I said Canada one Khan.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
That's all you need to know. The men above me said Christ is black and he's coming to save you. I said, well, damn, Khan, not a one Khan. That's about it. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are going to be saved, right? But again, you have to put in work. Now, don't ever in your life think that the Lord, our power, Yahweh in the Hebrew, right, is a punk. Don't ever think he's a coward where you can't trick on the Most High, right? The Most High will destroy your body in this hell, right, and destroy your soul as well, right? You can't expect the Most High to save you when you don't even celebrate Passover. You don't Salakia. You don't celebrate a day of atonement. You don't afflict yourself, right? Israel 9/11, like the bulk of the Israelites are in the Western Hemisphere. Now that doesn't mean that they're not everywhere else. I got brothers like Captain Parashia, right? Officer Dungabar, right? Officer Salakia, right? The whole UK, Officer Karashia, right? They're in the UK, right? Israelites are scattered everywhere. We said that earlier. We're scattered everywhere. It's just majority of the Israelites, our captivity was in the Western Hemisphere, right? That's where majority of the slaves went to or came from. The Native Americans were already here, right? Officer Shariwan, you can read John 4:22, Baba Kasha.
Come. The book of John, chapter 4 and verse 22. Ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship. For salvation is of the Jews.
Right. Read that one more time.
Come. Ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship. For salvation is of the Jews.
Right. Salvation is for the Jews. Who are the Jews? Now, as you know, Judah could be, Jew is for short for Judah. Judah could just be the tribe of Judah, or it can encompass all of Israel. Right. And as we know, Israel was scattered throughout the world. We are in every nation, right? But again, the bulk of us are in the Western Hemisphere. We know what we worship, right? We know who salvation is for, right? If you are tired of being told hurry up and buy, you are tired of being followed around when you just simply want some damn wave grease, some beeswax to put in your hair to get them 360 waves that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans love so much. You just want a do-rag so you can hold down your tight braids in the night. Sisters, they just want that. What is that? That Salakia. I'm old, man. That wet and wavy Salakia, right? They want that little brush for the baby hairs. You know when the sister, she does the little baby hairs and you see the little baby hairs and you're like, God damn. Like, right? That if you're tired of being followed around because you just want the little baby hair gel and the baby hair brush, like you gotta get into the truth, right? You gotta start putting in work for the Most High, right? That's what you have to do, right? Salakia, again, like we experience a lot of hate from our adversaries, right? This is a regular thing, hate from our adversaries, and god damn, man, like I goddamn, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like, just walk outside, right? Salakia, like, okay, I got one last story to tell you, right? The other day I went for some wings, right? I went to get some wings, like Officer Shaywan, you know the wing spot, right? Like Barack Allah, man. When I see you, I got a wing spot for you, man. Trust me, I got some wings. That shit, you're gonna be like, well, damn, Officer Zabadja, these wings are fire. Barack Allah, when I see you, you need to bring that calypso sauce. Hit up Officer
Right.
Adi. Tell him bring that calypso sauce. I should have just hit it. Salakia. Nah, I'm messing with y'all, man. But listen, man, Officer Adiar, he was trying to revive us, right? That's what he said. He was trying to revive us with some calypso sauce. Bubba Kashab, bring that calypso sauce. We need it for our wings, right? But the other day we went to this wing spot. Right? Or I went to this wing spot the other day to get some wings. I wanted some wings for my dinner, and I wanted to take some for the slavery for the lunch. There were these young girls that were being intimidated by Toronto police, right? This is in the nighttime. Now, something happened, right, with another young man. The young man was being arrested and taken away, but they were treating the young girls like they were criminals when the young girls had nothing to do with nothing. Seeing that they were young girls, I walked up. This is right in front of the store. They looked at me and their eyes said, "We are afraid." I asked them if they are right. These officers wanted to act like don't ask them any questions, right? And it's like, well, clearly these girls from my nation look like they're afraid, and I'm asking questions. They said they're all right. I said, have your parents been contacted? They say yes. I said, all right, right? These nations hate us. They see our children, they think they're criminals, right? They didn't want to let these girls sit on the bench. They wanted to have them stand for 40 minutes, right? It wasn't until I said, when are you going to let these little girls sit down? Clearly they're not under arrest because you don't have them in the squad car like you have the young man. Like, when are you going to like show some compassion on these girls who are clearly afraid of you? Right? You have guns, you're talking to them like they're adults, right? And you have no compassion. At the end of the day, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, you have an enemy who is above you, who doesn't give a damn about you, right? He doesn't show no Salakia. Last precept, let me get this right quick, right? Salakia, where is it? Right? This is a fierce nation, right? A nation of continents which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. That is Deuteronomy 28:50. That's how these nations operate when it comes to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And if you can't understand why we're on this Western Hemisphere focusing on our people on the West, you probably don't have compassion for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and you want everyone else to be a Israelite, right? When Native Americans not. Listen, man, there was no Chinese residential school, right? There was no crack cocaine put in the Chinese community. No one took China and said this is not China no more. But Texas, California, Nevada, Canada, this is not the Native Americans' land no more, right? The Chinese had a full Moabites, they had a full army, right? And now we're not saying that there aren't Israelites in Moab, but what we're saying is the bulk of our captivity is over here. The Israelites that are in Moab, we pray that they see these videos and that they're able to wake up. They're able to contact the school and let us know what's going on. Let us know your registry. Check in with us. Tap in with the prophets. Right? Like Officer of 500s of Baja. This has been another Saturday night scripture breakdown. If you haven't already, go to blackwatch.news, right? Again, we're going to bring a closing to the class. I'm going to hand the class over to Officer Shariwan. Clap it up.
These are the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After this 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find it in Numbers 18, verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 to 10. Ma'ashra means tenth in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, freewill offering for priests is not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. We have the Memorial of Blowing of Trumpets, which is on September, Monday the 6th. With that said, we're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers and a courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, I.M.A.J.M, which means stand. Men of Israel, I.M.A.J.M Shabbat. I.M.A.J.M Barak. Yah Ba'Shem Yahshua B'Chadam. Yad Yamatah. You're going to give a courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, I.M.A.J.M Shabbat. I.M.A.J.M Barak. Yahweh Shamar Al-Aslan Ba'Shem Yahshai. Yad Yamatah. Class dismissed.